Hey everyone, welcome back to another Mattel Jurassic World review. Today we're taking a look at the new Camp Cretaceous Sinoceratops. This is our second time seeing this new updated Sinoceratops mold, but this time around it comes in a much more movie accurate color scheme. Now at the time of this review, this figure has not been found on store shelves in the US yet. It was up for pre-order on Amazon a couple weeks ago, and I finally received the figure today. It retails for $14.99. I'll leave a link to Amazon in the description of this video, and it's probably just a matter of time before the figure starts popping up at Target and Walmart. So let's just go over the package really quick before we take a closer look at this more movie accurate figure. So a little collector tip, I've seen people on Facebook when they go check out these Soundstrike figures, they say their figures don't work. This is one of the few times I've actually seen this attachment still on the figures. What this does is block the battery inside the body of this figure. All you need to do is just give this a yank and it will activate the Soundstrike action. Moving on to the packaging, this figure comes in the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous style packaging that we've been seeing for a while now. You got the Primal Attack logo right here, Netflix logo up here, picture of the Soundstrike action, Toro the Carnotaurus, and a few pictures of the kids, and then turn the box around. On the side of the box, you got Bumpy the Ankylosaurus, along with the rest of the Camp Cretaceous cast. And on the back of the box, you get a nice picture of how that Soundstrike action works. You got a little cutout right here for the Camp Cretaceous sticker book, and then right here in the bottom corner are the other figures available in this Soundstrike wave. We have Limbo the Baryonyx making another appearance, and we have a beautiful repaint of the Cryolophosaurus. I'm definitely going to pick that one up when it becomes available. So enough about the packaging. Let's crack this figure open and take a closer look. So let's start with a nice 360-degree view of this new Sinoceratops. For those of us that have been collecting the Jurassic World line since Mattel took over with Fallen Kingdom, we've been waiting quite some time for a proper movie-accurate Sinoceratops. We all know Mattel's first attempt was just a Pachyrhinosaurus that was just named Sinoceratops on the packaging for whatever reason. And then they finally updated the mold and they gave us a gray color one, which matched the Sinoceratops in Camp Cretaceous. And we all knew that this more movie accurate color scheme was coming, and it's finally here. And I have to say, with these sparse paint apps, it gets the job done. It looks like the Sinoceratops that appeared in Fallen Kingdom. And for those of you that checked out my top 5 figures, Jurassic World figures from 2020, you know I'm a big fan of this new Sinoceratops mold. You know, it's not the most accurate looking mold, but it's definitely a very nice movie accurate mold, and I quite like this figure. Now let's just do a couple quick measurements. This figure is just about 13 inches long from the tip of the beak to the tip of the tail, and just about 5 inches tall to the spikes on top of the frill. So Sinoceratops in real life was about 20 feet long. So with those measurements, I'll put this figure in the 1/18 scale range. So let's zoom and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with this really nice head sculpt. The whole figure is cast in this dark green coloration. It's a much darker shade of green than the original Pachyrhinosaurus, but we'll get into that a little bit later on in comparisons. The large nose horn is painted in brown, same with all the spikes on the frill right here. But when you get to the cheek, that spike is not painted in brown. I feel like that was a missed opportunity by Mattel. Just looks really odd with all the spikes on the frill are painted in, except for this one. And then when you get down to the beak is painted a lighter shade of brown than the horns. You have some nice cream coloration on the side of the face right here with a little bit more of that cream. On the frill, you have that fenestra hole, which is not inaccurate, but it is a cool artistic touch. I really don't mind that. In real life, this would be covered up by muscle and skin. You have some nice light orange paint highlighting that fenestra opening. And then going down to the eye, you can see the eye is painted a bright yellow, and the pupil is not painted in. Mattel does this on quite a few of their figures, and it kind of irritates me. They'll just paint in the eye and leave the pupil the base color that the figure is, and I just think that's a very lazy touch. Just put a little bit of black paint in there and I'll just make a world of difference. But since we're talking about the eye, I much prefer the black eye on the gray version of this figure. For some reason, the yellow eye on this makes the figure look really cracked out, but that's just my personal opinion. And then going down to the main body right here, you can see more of that cream coloration on the back. Here's the top view of it, and that is it for paint apps on the figure. It stops right about here. It was my complaint on the gray version of this figure. I just feel like the paint apps are kind of sparse. It's just enough to get the job done. It is a nice movie accurate figure, but I just feel like the figure is very plain from when you get to that midsection to the end over here. And then going down to the front feet, you can see the toes, claws are nicely sculpted in. No paint apps on the front toe claws, and same on the back toes. You can see some nice large scales sculpted on the arms right here. Some nice scale variation along the side of the body with a lot of nice folds and wrinkles. Going down to the thighs, you get some nice large osteoderms and scale variations. Same thing with the toes. Some nice detail along the side right here and going all the way down to the tail. A lot of nice sculpting detail and figures. Like I said, I do quite like this mold. I think it's one of the better movie accurate molds that Mattel has put out recently. So let's move on to articulation. This figure does have basic articulation. The front arms can move forwards and back about that far before it hits the side of the body. Hind legs can move back and they can move forward that far. And they do have a little bit of a pivot right here to help with stability, which is really unneeded because this is a quadrupedal figure. You really don't need that pivot on here. And before I forget, here is the scan code for those of you that want to add this into the Facts app. So let's move on to the Soundstrike action of this figure. All you need to do is just grab the figure by the tail right here and just move the tail up and down inside the side. And now activate the electronic sounds in the figure. It's the exact same sound bites that are on the gray version of this figure. So let's move on with comparisons. First up, here it is with one of the human figures. Here it is with John Hammond. And next up, here it is with the Attack Pack Troodon. And next, here it is with the Savage Strike Scootosaurus. And next up, here is the gray version of this mold. You can see they are exactly the same, and the paint schemes are actually a little bit varied, like the pattern on the side of the face and on the back right here is a different pattern and a slightly different white color. This one's more of like a cream color. This one's more of like a flesh tone. But I do like both versions of these figures, and I know this gray one has been kind of tough for collectors to track down, but the good news is you have the much more movie accurate version popping up now, so if you missed out on this one, you should be able to get your hands on this one easily. And I know Mattel can go a little heavy on repainting figures, but in this case, I do like these two figures displayed next to each other. It looks like a sexually dimorphic pair, and I'm into herd building. I think these two figures are great for that. And next up here is the original Sinoceratops, or, Pachyrhinosaurus. And you can see the color scheme on this original version is a much brighter green than this current one, but they do share the overall same coloration. They both have that cream colored patterning with that orange highlight, but there's one main difference on this Pachyrhinosaurus. It has a lot more paint apps compared to this newer version. You got some cream color on the arms right here. You actually have some belly shading, and that cream pattern goes all the way down almost to the tip of the tail. Sometimes Mattel does a great job adding paint apps to their figures, and I feel like other times they really skimp and they kind of give us these two-tone figures. And I kind of just wish they would just, pick a side. Do you want to paint these figures, or do you want to just, add more color apps? And sometimes it feels like it just distracts from the mold. But like in this case, like I said, the paint apps are really sparse on here, but it gets the job done. And some other figures, not so much. And next up, here it is with the Mattel Triceratops. And every time I bring out the Mattel Triceratops, I always have to point out how small it is. I will always keep complaining about it until Mattel gives us a larger trike, because they look way too small next to the T-Rex figures in the line. I'd personally be happy if they kind of upscaled the trike head and just threw it on the Sinoceratops body, because the Sinoceratops is one of the largest Soundstrike figures, and that would look a lot better than just reusing this trike mold for the 800th time. And next up, here it is with the Control and Conquer Carnotaurus. These two dinosaurs faced off in Fallen Kingdom. And next up, for those of you that want to see what an accurate looking Sinoceratops looks like, here it is with the PNSO Sinoceratops. And lastly, here it is, because I absolutely love this figure and I cannot put it down, here it is with the Beast of the Mesozoic Centrosaurus. You can see this figure is an absolute monster compared to this Sinoceratops, which is already a sizable figure. So final thoughts on this figure. I've been a fan of this new updated Sinoceratops ever since the gray version came out, and this green version is just as good. Like I said, it's a little bit sparse on the paint apps, and I'm not a huge fan of the yellow eye. It actually looks much better in person, but when I saw the promotional images, that this dinosaur looked absolutely cranked out of its mind. And plus, I know the gray version has been kind of hard for collectors to track down, so now you have another opportunity to add this updated mold to your collection. And like I said at the beginning of the review, I am getting this figure off of Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description to that Amazon listing. I'm not sure if this is still in stock. Sometimes it'll say temporary out of stock, so just keep checking it until it comes back in. You should be able to secure one of these through them, or you can just wait until these eventually show up at Target and Walmart. So that would do it for the review. I only have one other Jurassic World figure to currently review. It's the Savage Strike Plesiosaurus. And I'm sure with Camp Cretaceous Season 3 premiering in May, we'll probably see a whole slew of new figures hitting Walmart and Target in the next couple of months. So as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously, and it's greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.